to the Economy Magazine at I-24 News, where we provide a daily view on the world markets and the global economy. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Well, coming up today, Russia's economy continues to fall, and average citizens are feeling the effects. 21 million Russians now living below the poverty line. And we focus on the world of cyber technology. The annual CyberTech 2016 in Tel Aviv put the spotlight on emerging trends in this market, with a number of high-profile CEOs highlighting security solutions for 2016. Well, let's start now with the headlines. Asian markets mostly higher on Wednesday following the surge on Wall Street just the day earlier. Stocks advancing thanks to the rebound in oil prices. Japan's Nikkei jumped 2.72%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng advanced 1%, but mainland China shares fell 0.50%. In Europe, stocks there were pretty much lower in choppy trading. By the afternoon, London's FTSE ticked up 0.15%. Germany's DAX rose 0.06%, and the French CAC dipped 0.09%. U.S. Dow futures pointed to a lower open. Well, a U.S. Treasury official told the BBC that the United States has viewed Russian President Vladimir Putin corrupt for, quote, many, many years. During an interview with BBC Panorama filmed in July, acting Treasury Secretary for Terrorism and Financial Crimes said that Putin has been amassing secret wealth. The Kremlin denies such allegations. Well, Putin's public financial records depict a man of modest means. In April, Putin declared 2014 income of 7.65 million rubles. Now, that's roughly $119,000.
I'm not in a position to give you figures, but what I can say is that he supposedly draws a state salary of something like $110,000 a year. That is not an accurate statement of the man's wealth. And he has long-time training and practices in terms of how to mask his actual wealth.
Is Vladimir Putin corrupt?
In our view, yes.
Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras defended his plan to overhaul the country's pension systems on Tuesday as public opposition has mounted. Well, Greeks have simmered over cutbacks that are a condition for the indebted country to qualify for more international aid. Amid escalating protests now, Tsipras said that the country had no choice but to reform the system. Greece's pension system costs about 28.5 billion euros a year, and lenders want cutbacks now equivalent to 1% of GDP per year.
Today we are discussing pension reform because if we don't take measures, the system will collapse. If we don't take measures, we will constantly need to keep taking money from the national budget in order to pay pensions, which, under the current financial situation, it is impossible to do.
Israel's defense minister Moshe Yaalon voiced strong words against Turkey on Tuesday. Speaking after a meeting with his counterpart in Greece, Yaalon said that IS militants have been funded with Turkish money. Now, this could hinder fresh efforts now to mend ties between the nations after years of estrangement. He's not the first security official to blast Ankara over its role in the Syrian conflict. Last month, U.S. State Department spokesman Mark Toner said IS was selling oil to middlemen who, in turn, were smuggling oil into Turkey. And Russia publicly accused Turkey of the same.
Daesh enjoyed Turkish money for oil for a very, very long period of time. I hope that it will be ended. Turkey allowed the jihadists to move from Europe to Syria and Iraq and back home as part of the Daesh terror infrastructure in Europe. I hope that it is going to be ended.
The World Bank has cut its 2016 forecast for crude to $37 a barrel. The bank also expects other commodity prices to drop into 2016 due to weak demand from emerging markets. In its last Commodity Markets Outlook report, the bank said the lower forecast reflects anticipation of Iranian crude and also resilience in U.S. output. Last year, oil prices fell 47%.
On a conjectural basis, we do think that there is some overreaction in the oil market, in the sense that probably prices went a bit more down than one would have expected. We have examined all the reasons, and indeed there are many reasons why oil prices went down, but we could not, I would say, identify one single reason that pushed them so hard now.
Back now to Russia. As the ruble hits an historic low, many there are feeling the effects of the financial crisis sweeping across the country. 21 million Russians, 15% of the population, now living below the poverty line.
Maria and Sergei's kitchen has never been so sparse. Imported treats are a thing of the past, and now every ruble counts.
Приходится ходить с калькулятором.
We have to go shopping with a calculator and work out how much it will cost us. Before I didn't do that. I knew I had money and that was enough. But now I have to work out what I can and can't buy.
Что вот это я могу взять, это я уже не могу.
Sergei is an architect, but hasn't had work for the past few months. Maria was made redundant from her job as a social worker last year. Together, they earn around $380 a month, just a fifth of their earnings 2 years ago. Like countless other families, they've been caught up in the financial crisis hitting the country.
This is our youngest son's room. This is the room for my husband and I, which we share with our daughter-in-law. And this is for our other son and his family. There are 4 in total.
Officially, unemployment hasn't dropped in Russia. The government prefers businesses to lower wages and hours rather than make redundancies. But in reality, 40% of companies say they've reduced their workforce, and 21 million Russians, 15% of the population, now live below the poverty line.
Наше руководство ничего не сделало, когда была нормальная цена на нефть.
When oil prices were good, the government didn't do anything to develop production in the country.
Очень печально и немножечко стыдно, что так получается.
It's a really sad situation, and we are ashamed to see our country become a pariah state on the international scene and behaving poorly.
Ведет себя как нехороший человек.
The couple have already survived several recessions since the fall of the USSR, but they say that then they were young and optimistic. Now they're not as strong, and they fear that if they fall sick in the future, they may not have enough money to help themselves get better again.
Israel's big cyber tech event took place in Tel Aviv on Tuesday, and our very own Daniel Roth attended the conference and offers us this snapshot.
Crowds from around the world gathered this week at the Tel Aviv exhibition grounds for the 2-day CyberTech 2016 conference, which is billed as the biggest cyber conference outside of the United States. True to the size of this conference, which included among the keynote speakers Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, one of the companies on the event floor was technology mainstay IBM. And one of the central emerging issues on the cyber agenda is balance between data security and infrastructure.
Cybersecurity is about protecting organizations from attacks not just to the internet and web-based systems, but increasingly it's about the Internet of Things, or what IBM would call a smarter planet. So think about connected cars. During 2015, we saw some of the first attacks against connected vehicles.
One of the other companies at the exhibition was Argus, which specializes in automotive security, an important new field as cars go from computerized to self-driving in coming years. And with Chrysler's 1.4 million car recall due to a hacking scare last summer, the need is clear.
3 veteran officers of the Israeli 8200 unit, which cybersecurity is their bread and butter, thought of what would be the next big challenge for IoT cybersecurity, and they came up with the idea of cars and connected cars. They seem to be the most relevant and promising area in which they'll be able to put their knowledge into practice.
According to the Gartner research firm, security technology spending is slated to grow from $77 billion last year to over $100 billion in 2019. And Israel is a major part of that, with 430 so-called cyber companies operating in the country. In the pavilion space, Israel's electric company was set up with CyberGym, an Israeli program to train companies to properly take care of their security needs. And the message there, too, was that there's a growing need for focus on material, not just data security needs.
Definitely there have been attacks. We've just seen the recent one in Ukraine, which is public knowledge now, although it was kept secret for a while, and we have seen others in the past.
Meanwhile, Israel is reportedly looking to put limits on exporting some of its advances for security reasons. And cyber in Israel is in its early stages, with nearly half of its companies still in product development, according to a report from high-tech database IVC. At the same time, Weave, an industry mapping startup, says that Israel's unique factor is the major investment from the Office of the Chief Scientist.
Before I made this map, the cyber industry or sector was just a blurb for me. I had no idea who are the players in the industry, how big the industry is, no tools to equivalent it to other industries. So the first insight is just seeing the map.
Here at CyberTech 2016 in Tel Aviv, it's clear that Israel is not only on the cyber technology map, but creating it. This is A. Daniel Roth for I-24 News.
On set now for further insight, we are joined by Kobi Simana, IVC Research Center CEO, and Sion Satlavi, Senior Director at Setco. Thank you both very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Kobi, let's start with you. We saw a lot of big names here coming from all over the world to this conference. Quite a testament here to the strength of the sector. What can you tell us about it?
Definitely. We saw at IVC in the last 3 years or so, more than 200 investors worldwide coming to see more and advanced technologies that they can seize the opportunity and grasp it from the start. We saw corporates, we saw governments, we saw financial investors. They are all looking into the cutting-edge technology that Israel has to offer.
Right. And how does Israel play into this framework globally?
I think that Israel today is considered to be ranked number 2nd, both in number of companies that operate in the market and the level of sophistication their products and services offer. I believe that it will only grow as we see more and more companies jumping into this kind of market, producing newer and sophisticated products to serve the client's needs.
Interesting. Who's number 1?
I think the U.S.
All right. Well, Sion, you also attended this conference. Yeah. What did you think about it, and how does Israel play into this framework for cyber technology?
Well, I think it was amazing to see how many security startup or cyber startup we have in Israel. There's just plenty, and I think that if you count by the number of startups per capita, per number of people, then I think we were ranked number 1.
And that's consistent with some other surveys that we've seen, just even when it comes to startups, right? The Startup Nation here. Mm-hmm. Also, something that came across in this conference, we were told Yuval Steinitz publicized that there was essentially this target against a major Israeli corporation here. Can you tell us about that?
Well, we don't have all the details as of now, but what we do know is that it was a very sophisticated attack, one that took a lot of preparation to conduct, and at the end of the day, it just goes to show that recent, or let's say traditional security mechanisms are just ineffective. Like AV is a thing of the past, and it's just not relevant to advanced attacks.
Right, and he said that this was potentially against the Israeli Electricity Authority, and so the cyber community was involved here in preventing this attack from happening?
Yeah, that's what I heard also, but again, we don't have too much details about that. What we do know is that a lot of these cyber attacks go undetected, and the mere fact that they have managed to, well, first of all, detect it and then remediate or respond to it in such a quick manner, that's very impressive.
Interesting. We did talk about Israel's place in the cyber world. According to some surveys, it's number 2. But perhaps what is unique about the market here in Israel compared to other locations, like the United States?
I think the workforce skills here in Israel are very much advanced. Guys from the elite units of the IDF and both guys from academia and, of course, from foreign R&D centers that operate here in Israel are trained at a very young age to perform and to produce such efficient tools to cope with the current situation. And the cyber requires all of that. The cyber requires creativity and the ability to respond in real time to real threats, and it will only get worse in the near future as both the good guys and the bad guys are getting equipped with more advanced technology.
Right, and we're seeing politics and war being played out on the internet these days when we see the IS and whatnot. So this is increasingly more important. Correct?
Yes, definitely. It will only the level of sophistication, both on the good guys and the bad guys, will only increase. And we only hope that the Israelis will play a major role in defending the good guys.
Right. And just last word, I mean, when we talk about the good guys and the bad guys, sometimes this is protecting governments, but also your bank account. Where do you think is going to be the most potential for investors?
Definitely the private market, the enterprise level. Governments are a good market, but it's going very slow, and it's very hard to penetrate and get contract with. And of course, if you go to the private market, it's easier, faster, and maybe more productive both for the investor side and the company side.
Well, thank you both very much for offering us this insight on the world of cyber technology. That wraps up our show today. Stay tuned here every day for all your global economic coverage. From the Jaffa Port in Tel Aviv, I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Thank you so much for watching.